Leo Bond here. I'm back again today for the blog at Best Buy Canada, and this time I've got a very cool and a pretty slick radio-controlled speedboat to show. It's called the Traxxas Blast, and it's a high-performance electric race boat with a 24-inch V-shaped hull, so that's 2 feet long, and this is actually my very first time testing an RC speedboat, so I was super excited to get a hold of the Blast here. I knew it would be fast, fun, and easy to control, and it certainly didn't let me down. So what I did is I ran the Blast in a few different locations, and we're going to take a look at the video of that, and I'll talk a little bit about how it performed. I'll go over most of its key features, we'll show lots of footage, and by the end of the video, hopefully you'll have a pretty good idea of whether or not the Traxxas Blast might be for you. But the very first thing that I want to say about this is that there are several precautions that you have to take when you're going to own or operate the Traxxas Blast. And these are mostly just common sense things that will extend the usable life of the boat, and I won't go into too much depth on them here, but I will suggest that if you do pick up the Blast, give the owner's manual a pretty good examination before you get started so that you'll know the various do's and don'ts of running this thing. And I'll also mention that the Blast is a freshwater only vehicle, so you definitely want to keep it away from the salt or even brackish water. And you also want at least 10 inches of depth to run it in. And also make sure that the water is as clean and clear as possible. I took it to both a lake and a river myself, and I looked for very clean, calm areas that had little to no current that I had to be concerned with, although I did have to put up with a little bit of algae and other freshwater weeds here and there that would occasionally get caught up in the propeller and slow things down. But for the most part, it was pretty smooth sailing in every location that I took it. Now, it's also important to note that while the Blast has a number of waterproof components, like its receiver box and its high-torque servo, this boat is certainly not meant to be submerged or fully dunked in the water. It's not a submarine. You still want to keep those internal components as dry as possible, and if you're using a different type of battery from the one that comes included, just be careful about that as well. Some batteries are more on board with wet environments than others, and I was also reading in the owner's manual there that the Blast's Nautica electrical speed control is not compatible with LiPo batteries, so just be aware of those kinds of details as well. Now, as for the battery that does come with the Blast, it's a Traxxas power cell made up of 6 connected cells. It's a 7.4 volt NIMH 3000 milliamp hour battery, and I found that I was getting maybe 10 to 12 minutes of pretty much all out running on a complete charge before I started to feel like I'd better bring it in. I didn't want to have to go for a swim to recover it out of the middle of the river, so I didn't exactly push my luck on that. Once it started to become a little bit sluggish, I just ended my run for the day. By the way, the charger for this is not a fast charger, but at least it does plug into a standard wall outlet. So finally we don't have to deal with one of those awful car cigarette lighter chargers. But what's sad about that is that it takes about 8 hours to get a full charge on this, so you will have to wait a bit between runs. But because the Blast uses a rather ingenious water cooling system to keep its Stinger 20-turn electric motor cool, you can probably bring multiple battery packs with you if you want and get an overall longer run without having to worry too much about overheating the engine. And basically how this system works is that there's an external forward-facing pipe at the Blast's stern, which sits just below the surface of the water, and the faster you go, the more water is forced into and through that pipe. And basically what happens is that the water goes up through the hull and the pipe wraps around and around the motor 5 or 6 times so that there's a continual supply of cool, if not cold, water running through the pipe hard up against the motor to keep it cool. And the water just exits from the side of the boat, so there's no end to the steady cycle of cooling that this system will provide as long as you're running the Blast, and I was really quite impressed with this very clever system. Now, as for the Blast controller, it's your standard Traxxas TQ 2.4 GHz controller. Looks just like the ones used by Traxxas cars and trucks. It takes 4 AA batteries, and the throttle and steering and everything all work the same way as what we've seen before with other Traxxas vehicles, with the one key difference being that there's no reverse on the Blast, although it does have a fully steerable outdrive or propeller system, and there's a steering trim knob on the controller, so it's all very easy and straightforward to use, and I didn't have any flips or other incidents incidents while operating it. I found that the transmitter had a very good range, at least 200 to 300 feet, although I couldn't find exact specs on just how far away I could go with it, so I did try to keep within range of a couple hundred feet most of the time. Again, I didn't want to have to go for a swim if I lost my signal, but nothing like that happened, and I honestly had a real blast, pardon the pun, running this thing, and I would definitely like to own one of these myself. So I think that's where we'll end things off for now. The Traxxas Blast is intended for users ages 14 and up, and it's definitely loads of fun and certainly worthy of a purchase whether you're an existing RC enthusiast or are completely new to the hobby, as long as you have a decent sized freshwater source to run it in, and it doesn't have to be that huge. Even a good sized swimming pool could work. Of course, there is a whole lot more to this thing that we could get into, but as always, I do like to save some stuff for the complete written review over at Best Buy Canada's blog, so go ahead and check that out if you haven't already. You'll find lots of other cool product reviews and articles there as well. As for me, I'll catch you in the next video, so thank you all for watching, have an excellent day, and I'll see you soon.